it in a while. So before that, does anybody have any questions on this particular incident response life cycle that we have discussed yesterday? Yes, no, not, maybe, could.
No, sir.
I hope you all are clear on that, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Very glad to hear that. So now let me move on to today's session, which is incident response day 2. What we'll be discussing here mostly is like, as I said yesterday, we'll be discussing about majorly the roles and responsibilities of an incident response analyst, and then different type of roles in the incident response team. Along with that, we will kind of deep dive into the one of the latest ransomware type, or one of the ransomware family, which is nothing but a royal ransomware, and see how it actually works and how to analyze it. And then we'll take a deep dive into or review the incident response plan that has been created for the ransomware, as well as we'll also look for the one of the response plan for phishing as well. Are we clear on our agenda?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let me quickly go back to the questionnaire that Suraj has asked yesterday. So I have copied all those questions here, Suraj. I hope you are on the call. So these are the
Yes,
10
sir. Thank
questions
you.
that you have asked. So I felt these questions are really interesting. I mean, not, I mean, when I say interesting, there's something that will definitely useful while your interviews. So I thought of like, hey, let's have the discussion on the call itself. So we'll get started with the first question. So the first question that we have here is, how would you handle an incident of a high number of failed login attempts on a critical system? So I have a question for you on this particular question. So what kind of activity do you detected here? What kind of activity do you suspect happening here? When somebody say, hey, there's a high number of failed login attempts, what does it could be?
It's brute force attacks.
Perfect. So what is brute force? Or what do you mean by like brute forcing something?
Uh,
It is a type of phishing attack in which attacker tries multiple username or password.
Try and error. Trial
Because
and error.
Sir, trying to log in. Okay. Wait a minute, sir. Let me
hmm
just.
no worries.
Okay,
I'll
okay,
I'll
sir.
help
I
you.
will get it,
hmm
sir. Trying to log in with another username or password with use of dictionaries or rainbow tables.
hmm
Okay,
Yeah, very close.
that's
So I'll
very
I'll
close.
try to keep it very simple. So when we say brute force is nothing but trying to get into some, like let's say an unauthorized person is trying to get into a place where he's not supposed to be in. Like example, let's say if I take Suraj machine, Suraj is the only one who was supposed to log in and take a look at all his files or the details that has on his computer, right? Instead of Suraj, let's say we all can access it. Let's say we all trying to access it, or let's say I just felt like, hey, Suraj has some interesting file, so uh, let me crack his password or let me guess his password, and then try to get that unauthorized data. I mean, he is looking at Suraj data with unauthorization, right? That is what we call brute forcing. Brute forcing is somebody trying to get into a place where he is not authorized to. It could be a mission, it could be any place, it could be a data center, it could be anything which he doesn't have. Even that is what thieves do, right? Whenever they enter, they break the authentication system, which is nothing but that locking. That is what we call brute force. So now here the question is, how would you handle an incident of high number of failed login items. So when you say this, or when somebody asks you this question, first you have to address them. With reference to your question, I clearly understand the attempt or the type of attack happening on that critical system is a brute force activity. When it is happening on a brute force activity, you have to say like, I'll be using my SIEM to monitor all the logs, and then I'll be fetching out all the logs from the Windows AD, and I'll be looking at there are few event IDs 4625 and 4624. Are you anybody clear on this? Clear on this event IDs 4624 and 4625?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Login and failures.
Exactly. So they are the Windows event IDs which are generated based on the failed and successful login attempts of any machine or any Windows machine, I would say. So what you have to do is we have to take a look at of all those event IDs, all those events in SIEM for that particular server. So when you start looking at them, you will get to see the username and the at time, and then there is also some. Okay, let me show you right here. Okay, 462. Let me take a look at 4625 because we'll not have much things to dig in 4624. It just says, yeah, successfully logged in. That's it. Okay, you see this alert? You see? Hope you all can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is a kind of event that triggers whenever there is an account that got failed to log in. So it could be either interactive, it could be either to the NTLM, it could be by the scripts, it could be anything, any sort of it is. Any authentication system or any sort of login activity happening on a machine, if that gets failed. When I say any authentication related to Windows gets failed, this is the event ID that is going to generate. When somebody says, how do you going to deal it? These are the events that you have to take a look at the first. I'll tell you why. So here, if you take a look at the sample event here, yeah, so this is one of the sample event, how it actually looks like. I mean, I would say this is the raw event, and here are the details about it. So mostly we have to look at the account name. What is the account name they are using it? See, when we say brute forcing activity, there are multiple type of activities, right? When we say brute force, they may use single username with multiple passwords. That is what we call dictionary attack or rainbow attack, or it could be like distributed brute force activity, like they use n number of usernames with the same password. And they may be also using, let's say I know I have to crack Suraj account on that particular server. So when I know the username is Suraj, what I'll be doing, I'll guess the username. I mean, I have the username, I have to guess the password. So how I'll do it, either I'll do the dictionary, I'll just keep, or let's say Suraj is a best friend of mine. What I'll be doing, I'll start guessing it. Okay, what is his data, what could be his date of birth, what could be his employee number, or what could be his phone number, and then I'll start guessing his password with all those combinations. So when I do that, for the time being, let's assume your activity is something similar to this, which I just told you. Like, I'm trying to guess Suraj password on a critical server, and that has triggered an alert. So when you look at the account name will be the same all the time, because I'm just gonna guess his username, I mean his password for each and every attempt. And then here, this is the main important type. So when you look at the logon type, it will tell you clearly what actually happening. See, if it is like interactive is nothing but you are physically giving you a password. As soon as you open your machine, what you will be doing, you will be giving your password, right, with the keyboard. Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So
Yes,
that
yes.
kind of login attempt is something called interactive. Or let's say network login. Let's say you have a network share, or let's say you are accessing OneNote, or let's say you are accessing Splunk. You will see a small pop-up on the browser. Hey, enter your username and password again, right? And that kind of authentication is something they call it like network. Let's say there's a batch. You have a process, or let's say there is a service account which has to use the password. Then you will set up a batch file, and same goes with the service account as well. And this 7 type is workstation unlocked, and mostly we have to look at I would say like interviewer would expect you to know about these login types. interactive, network, batch, service. I haven't seen anybody asking about this new credentials or there, but you had to remember about these two as well. Remote, interactive, and then cache credentials. So whenever there is an actual activity, right, attacker will not come and sit in our office. They'll be somewhere here, somewhere over the internet, and then they'll be doing the authentication remotely. You're getting my point?
Yeah.
So now let's say let's say, as I said, I'm the one who is guessing Suraj password. So what I'll be doing, I'll be using Suraj computer itself, because he's just sitting beside me. I have his user ID. I just have to enter his password. So how I'll be doing it? Interactively, right? So if you see the login type 2, it's like somebody from the inside or in-house or one of your colleague is trying to do the brute force. If you say network, yeah, somebody is doing it over the internet. If you say when I say internet, it could be like intranet and the internet. When somebody say remote interactive, then it's like through RDP, remote desktop services, and this is the most used method by the attackers. You're getting my point?
Yes, sir.
By
Yes, yes.
using these logon types, we'll figure it out what kind of activity was actually happening on that particular brute force activity. I mean, who is actually trying to do, and what could be the aim of that particular attacker. And now there is some interesting field which we say like, I call it as a substatus or a status in a event ID. So every event ID will have a substatus field which we call. Here, if you see, this is the status which says that this is the status which gives the reason for the failure. Now, let's say you will see those reasons here. Where are the reasons? Ultimate Windows Security. This is the another one-stop solution or one-stop website for all your Windows event related. It is a very good website, because like Microsoft keep things crazy. They keep every piece of information which is required or may not be required on a single sheet. So always Windows is confusing. So if you Microsoft is confusing. So if you come here, it is like pretty clear. You see that description, and it identifies service account, account name, login ID, and then logon type. This is what you see here, right? And then there is something called failure information. So this section says why the login attempt has been failed. Now let's say you are login with, let's say the similar case. I'm logging with a username of Suraj, which I'm already aware of the username, but I'm trying with a bad password. I'm guessing the password, so definitely there will be a wrong password. So here then you will get to see this particular error code. Now you see like, yeah, username is correct, but password is wrong, which means that, oh, somebody is already having their username, and then somebody is trying to brute force it. Now let's say somebody is trying to log on, and then that account is getting failed, which means that their user account was currently logged out, but still somebody is doing it. And other most important thing, or the event ID that you may have to look at, is 0 cross 72, 0 cross C0072, which is like account is currently disabled. So if somebody is trying to log in very aggressively for the disabled account, that is definitely something creepy. And then you will this is something very common that you see. Even this is also very important event that I would say. Even account expiration. So even if you see this or this, there is something definitely creepy things happening on the mission, which you should with this is something which I call it as events of interest. And then let's say here, if a account is expired, let's say every Windows account will get expired within 60 days or 90 days as per the company policies, right? So let's say if your password is expired but you're still trying to do, this is the authentication error. It says, hey, you're trying to log in but you're unable to, I can't process your request because your password has been expired. You must have to change your password before you log in next time. Got it?
Yes,
So
sir.
you had to tell the interviewer that I'll be looking at all this data and determine what kind of actual activity is happening on that particular server. Now let's say if the attack you see in all the connections you see like connections are coming over RDP which was logon type 11, and then you see there were an events which are related to user does not exist, and then username is correct but password is wrong. So then you have to understand that they are just trying to guess the usernames as well as the passwords as well. Now you have to take care of. Now once you see all this, then you have to start looking at what is the IP address where the login attempts are coming from, and then you have to do the IP analysis by using VirusTotal or any other thing that we have. And once to just to determine where the login attempts are coming from, and that is what comes under see, whatever we are doing it now is a part of detection and analysis. Detection is already the one who has given you the question has given you the detection. Now whatever the things that I showed you is something that is part of analysis. So now once you are done with all this, then the other important thing that you have to look at is, do we have any successful attempt from that particular IP address? You are getting my point? Till now, we
Yeah.
looked at failed login events. Now, do we have any successful login attempts? Because somebody is brute forcing it. We have to check whether they are successful or not. How can we check that? If let's say you suddenly started seeing, hey, you saw a successful event, then which means that attackers successfully accessed user machine. If you see such kind of successful attempts, immediately what you're gonna do, you have to go ahead and disable that particular account. With the help of admin team or IT team, you have to get that account disabled as soon as possible, and then you have to clear all the present sessions. Because how Windows works is, let's say you have a session created, it will not ask you to reset your password till the next session creates. You all may have seen it already, because sometimes what you do is you change your password. Even after you changing your password, you see like your old password is still working on the few connections or the few websites. Have you ever seen that, noticed it?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, so that's what. So now attacker already had a very clear session because he has successful attempt. Now once he is what do you say? Once though you could disable his account or lock the user account, there is still chances that he may be having all the active sessions going on still. So other thing is, you have to purge. When I say purge, you have to disconnect or clear all those connections or the other established sessions. Windows team can do it by using Intune or Azure. They can do it. So once you are done with it, then you have to start investigating what all activity they have performed from the time of the login till the disable. So what they'll be doing is, they'll try to create another account for the persistence. They try to do the lateral movement, like they'll escalate the privileges. They try to see what they try to get the access for the administrator or the local account, and they may add few people to the particular group, or they may change the user access to the administrator access by adding them to some groups. So there are multiple activities that they have to perform and figure it out and ensure that user see now. If I reference this with the incident response life cycle, detection is something that you already have on your screen. The one who already interview had given you. Now this, whatever the analysis that we did, like figuring out whether there's any failed items, if yes, why, what is the logon type, where are the alerts are coming from, whether that IP is malicious or not, and then figuring out whether it was a successful attempt or a failed attempt. So once you see it is successful attempt, and then figuring out what all activities that particular user account has been done during that particular session, this everything comes under part of detect and analysis. Now let's say as we said, let's say the account was successfully logged in. The other step what we're going to do is, we have to stop the attacker moving forward. That's where we get that particular account disabled. When you create that when you disable that particular account, or when you lock that particular account, he'll not be able to do any activity though he has the password, right? That is the process where we call containment. And then now you have analyzed all the activity that user has performed. You saw like, hey, he created few unwanted accounts, or let's say he created some new accounts, and he initiated few new process, and he privilege, he escalated some few privileges of a user accounts, or let's say he added few accounts to the groups. Then you have to delete all these content. I mean, you have to make sure, I mean, he made some changes to the accounts, right? You have to bring them back. You have to delete all those processes. You have to delete all those new user accounts. Whatever the user privilege was escalated, that had to bring down. Doing all this activity is part of eradication. And then once everything is done, then you have to start creating a IR report and say like, hey, how the attacker has been happened, why did the firewall allowed it, why does this particular critical server has a RDP on it, why the remote, I mean, why it is able to do the RDP, and why this Suraj account password was easily crackable. So you must have to suggest Suraj like, hey, next time use the better password. When I say better, it should be very complex. When I say complex, it should be the combination of cap lock, small lock, characters, some numerics. You're getting my point? All this is called as post-incident activity. And based on that, you had to, as you're saying, it's a critical server, then you should be definitely having a different priority and the kind of a use case for this particular detection. I mean, this is how you have to elaborate to the interviewer, like this is what all activity that I'll be doing. And if you will be able to, if you somehow be able to create it with the kind of same incident plan that I have explained you, then interviewer will definitely go crazy, and definitely he'll get on your side. Did that answer your question, Suraj?
Yes, one doubt I have, that you told us to like analyze the IP address. So IP address must be private, right? From
What
that
was that?
IP,
What was that?
like from the IP address that attacker is trying to gain access to other system, it should
Mm-hmm.
be private because like it is connected. It should be connected to our system already. He may compromise our system already, right?
Um,
So,
it's not only like that, it can be like multiple ways. Directly, I can compromise from the external network. Let's say, as I see here, the question that we have here is one of the critical system. When they say critical system, I consider being them the servers. Whenever we say critical server, then that is something internet facing. Or let's consider Suraj machine as an example. What I'll be doing is some attacker will compromise Suraj machine, and from there he may do the lateral movement of brute forcing into some other critical systems from Suraj account. In this case, you will see the source IP as Suraj machine. Then you have to think about it. Why does Suraj is doing all these things? Then when you start investigating Suraj machine, then you understand, oh, this was the machine that was compromised from particular so and so IP address. Hope you are clear.
yes, so he is trying to brute force the like website, web facing server.
Yeah, kind of.
We can prevent it with the help of web, right? Captcha.
Yeah, we can prevent it, but here the question is, how do you handle if there was that preventive measure that was failed?
Yes, clear.
Getting my point? All right, I'll move on to the next question. I think we are running very late. I'll try to quickly wrap up. I mean, these are interesting questions. There's no doubt about it. But I'll try to give as much as information that help you to answer you. I mean, you answer it to the interviewer for sure. So here, what is your process of analyzing the malware samples? So anybody has investigated malware before in any time before?
No, sir.
And this malware analysis is a very huge topic, as again said. So I'll not be covering each and every part here in this session, but I'll just quickly tell you what all we could do. So here, as you already said, it's a malware. What I'll be doing is I'll be taking that particular hash value and I'll be throwing it in the virus total and see what kind of malware it is. Because when we say malware, it has a different type of malwares, right? It could be a ransomware, or it could be any botnet, or it also could be any sort of banking trojans, or it could be emitted. It could be any sort of thing. So our first priority is to understand what kind of activity it is happening there, and that's where VirusTotal will definitely help you out. Let's say VirusTotal turned to be very clean. The next thing that you have to do is you have to take that particular samples from the tools that you have, or let's say you already have the sample, then upload it to the sandboxing of EDR tools. And do not or ever never say to the interviewer that I'll be taking the sample and I'll be using internet or open source tools to do the sandboxing. That will definitely leave a negative mark, because there are two problems with it. So whenever you say like, yeah, I perform the sandboxing using open source, I mean the free versions that are available on the internet, then there is a huge issue of data leakage. Because let's say you don't know whether you are dealing with the actual malware or any one of the known application on the environment or organization. If it is a known application, then if you are uploading that particular file into the internet, whenever we upload anything to the internet, or let's say any of the example hybrid analysis or any .run, each and everybody will have access for it. When I say even attackers will have, even mostly all the attackers will be taking a look at of VirusTotal and all other tools, just to see whether they are successfully detected or not. If they see like, yeah, I see one hash value and somebody is already performing analysis on it, and then there are all the engines that has been detected, then from that moment he'll not use that particular payload to proceed his analysis, because all his AVs, all the EDR tools will detect him, even the security response team will detect him, and then they will stop him. So he'll not get succeeded. The chances of getting him succeed is very low, very low. So that way you have to analyze in your own sandbox, then it will give you all the process that will run, it will give you all the connections it will make. I mean basically when you do the sandbox, it will give all the indicators that it gonna uh, it will give you all the indicators that it gonna kind of make the connections with. So once it is done, you can start doing your check with those IOCs, and then determine whether that was a successful attempt or not. Moving on to the next question, how would you investigate a suspected breach? So it is a combination of this and this. So either answering either this way, or the answer that we discussed here would be same. And I am also going to cover one of the ransomware type in this session, so that will definitely answer you this particular question. What would you do? What would you do if you detected an unusual network traffic on your network? So again, this is a part of investigation. I'll cover it in the next, I mean, in today's session. What tools and techniques do you investigate a security incident? Again, I mean, I'll be showing you one security incident. I can't give you everything practical, but I'll just see what I have done in one of the investigations that I handled. How do you stay up to date with latest security threats and vulnerabilities? As I said, you must follow or subscribe to few very known followers in your Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube channel, like we discussed yesterday. So that will definitely help you to this. And also, you can go through CISA. There are some other n number of providers that give the details about vulnerabilities and the threats. So they'll definitely keep you updated that way. As we are in a very you understand, right? We are in such a domain where we have to keep ourselves updated every day. When I say every day, yeah, it is every day. And how would you analyze the log to determine if an attack has been successful? Again, this is how, if so, here you can consider, I mean, when somebody asks you this question, you can't give the answer generalized in a very generalized way. You have to consider, okay, let me consider if someone is attacking or someone is doing the brute force. Then you can say the example, yeah, I see n number of failed attempts, and then I see a successful attempt followed by all the failed attempts, and then after that I see my n number of enumerations, all number of modifications, privilege escalations. That kind of, then that's a clear indication that attack was successful. What are the most common attack methods used by hackers, and how would you defend against them? So I think this was the slide that will speak about all the things. So these are the most common kind of attack vectors that attackers would definitely use, each or mostly they prefer to use. And then how do you prioritize and respond to multiple security incidents happening simultaneously? I mean, this is a very interesting question. I feel not interesting. This is something that you should all be knowing it, because you all will be joining, or you all will be interviewed for the role of security analyst. So this is the this is the must-have question, or maybe you mostly can expect this question coming on your way from the interviewer. Like, how do you prioritize it? So first of all, let's say you have two alerts triggered for the activity. One is for brute force, and other one is Windows shorter copy delete. So Windows brute force, I don't say they are very low prioritized, but still, however, when you compare with the activity of Windows copy deletion, definitely it's not that critical. So what you'll be doing is, first you'll be prioritizing based on the activity that has been detected, or based on the incident that has been detected. Now let's say both are very critical. Then what you have to do is, you should not handle two incidents at the same time. You must have to pass it on to some other fellow analyst and say, hey, I'm working on some incident that is very critical. At the same time, I see another critical incident triggered. So let's come and investigate together and see if they both are related. You're getting my point? Hello?
Yeah, yeah, Kiran.
So that's how you have to answer to the interviewer. All right, I think enough time for spending on this. But Suraj, I hope have got the answers for most of the questions here. But as I said again, I'll cover these three. Oh, sorry, I'll cover those three questions, whatever you have it here. How do you investigate it? I mean, how do you invest? What do you do if you detect unusual traffic? What are the tools that you use for the investigation? How do you? I mean, these two questions I'll answer you in a while. Oh, was that fine?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's get into our session. I mean, let's get into our usual topic today. So, what does incident response team do? So, what are the key activities of an incident response team? So, as I just mentioned you the different phases of it. Now you understand, right? They are key responsible for each and every operation of what do you say, cyber security. When we say their major responsibilities, these are the major responsibilities. First goal would be like investigation and analysis. That is the key step of incident responder, to identify who is the attacker, where is he, what he's trying to do, and what he has done to your network, whether it has been compromised or not, and also to decide the priority of that particular activity. They are the investigation tools. Example, let's say our goal is investigation. What are the key questions? Is the incident requires an attention now? Which assets are impacted? Now again, as I said, let's say you started seeing and suddenly an Windows volume shorter copy delete event activity on your machine, and then you realized that was something that was performed by an admin activity. So if it was something performed by an admin, you need an attention right now. Do you have to consider it critical? No. And which asset has been impacted? So let's say you see the window copy delete on a normal user machine, and at the same time you also saw a similar alert on a critical server. So definitely you'll be prioritizing the critical server as the your first priority. And then key tactics is determine and document the scope, priority, and impact, like the way I just spoke now. And then next, reporting and communication. So here, when it comes to the reporting and communication, it is the very important tool, because being an incident responder, you cannot disclose each and every piece of information that you have. Let's say even if there is a very if there is a data breach, you can't go ahead and inform everybody like, hey, I have seen some ransomware in my company, I have seen this. You cannot provide any details, because it is the matter of company's reputation. You're getting my point? Just give me a minute, I'll be back. Just a minute, I'll be back right away. Hey, sorry for that, I'm back. So reporting and the communication that you make, see which type of security incident do we include in your daily, weekly reports, and the person who you contact with definitely is something that you have to keep in mind. And then third one is response and improvement. As I said, response is all your responsibility as an incident responder. How do you actually respond to an incident? If you don't, or let's say if somebody doesn't respond properly to an incident, that will definitely lead to a huge security breach. And then improvements. So you are one of the key role who plays a major part in the improvements, right? Because you are the one who handles it, and you know where actually the mistake has been happened. Then it's your responsibility to ensure that all the detection system, all the process, all the documentation are up to date, or as per the are updated based on your investigation on the root cause. Hope you all get it. So if somebody asks you what are the major responsibilities or the key roles of an incident responder, first you say investigation or the analysis, reporting and communication, and then response or improvement. Does anybody have any questions on this? Shall I move forward?
Yeah, Kiran.
All right. Coming to the roles and responsibilities. So now in the previous slide, we just discussed about the roles and responsibility of a one particular, each and every individual incident as an individual analyst as an incident responder. Now we are going to discuss about what are the different type of roles and responsibilities in an entire response team. So whenever you see an incident response team, you will see different kind of people who are named as a team leader or an incident commander or a lead investigator, communications leads, documentation and timeline lead, and then HR and legal representative or representation. So when it comes to the team leader, he is the one who it is just like he is someone who will be performing the team lead activity for all the incident responders. So he'll be the lead for it, and he'll ensure that each and every incident that we handle or each and every process that we do or we are doing with a proper authentication, and he'll be more focusing on minimizing the damage and then recovering the recovering the damage very quickly. So mostly he coordinates with all the security response team, and then he keeps the focus on minimizing the damage and recovering it quickly. And then when it coming to the lead investigator in a team, he collect all the evidences and determine the root cause analysis and directs the other security analysts and completes the rapid system and security recovery on system and service recovery. So when we say lead investigator, his responsibility is like investigate. He has to lead the investigation, and he has to determine the evidences, and he has to determine what is the root cause of this particular activity, and then he has to call or inform all other security teams that, hey, this is what happened, this is the root cause, let's defend it. And when it comes to the communications lead, he, as I said, in incident response team, communication play a very, very major role. Even a single word that you speak irrelevantly will definitely ruin the entire reputation of a company. Let's say if you are speaking to a press, if you are speaking to one of the interviewer, let's say a media interviewer, then definitely, let's say somebody, then all of a sudden you started saying, we have seen a ransomware previously, then definitely that will make a huge impact, and that brings the stock price or their market down. Definitely will have a huge impact. So it is always important to keep your communications very limited, and whatever you are speaking, it should be an authorized notice from the leadership. All right, coming to the documentation and timeline lead. Documentation is nothing but there will be a one individual analyst who will be tracking all the activity or the investigation that you performed, and then they'll be creating a report called IR report, which we call it as incident response report, which is actually part of post incident activity. We discussed about all these phases, right? So this documentation would come under the part of, the IR documentation would come under the part of post incident activity. and even the same person will be responsible for updating all the document which are in the preparation phase. Like example, now he, after doing all the analysis and the root cause, he identified, yeah, there are few documents or the process that need to be updated, then it's his own responsibility to ensure all the SOPs, playbooks, or the run books are updated as per that. And then HR and legal, just if anything goes bad, and being an incident response team, it's a responsibility to always stay connected with the HR and the legal team to know the policies of that particular, because as a company we don't sit in a single country, we sit across the globe, we sit across the seas. So every country has their own regulations, so every country has their own policies. So having a connectivity with the HR and legal, they'll let you know what we are supposed to speak and what you are supposed not to. Now, do you understand the different roles and responsibilities of an incident response team?
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Yes, yes.
All right. So moving on to the incident
Kiran,
response hierarchy. So this was the question that somebody has asked me yesterday. Where do we actually sit? Where do this what do you say, incident response team come in? So usually, as I say, first of all, again, um, all the alerts are will be monitored by the security operations center as the initial triage. As you could see here, where is the marker? So as you could see on the something on your left, there is a security operation and event management. They do the triage and escalations. So once they see they triage it and then they escalate it, that incident goes to incident response team. So incident response team will again handle all the activities and then do the proper investment, and then they'll share the data to the defensive operations team. So once they get the details, they'll share the data with the CISO. CISO is nothing but Chief Information Security Officer, and CISO will be the head of the organization when it comes to the cyber security. And you see like how different teams operate, right? Even threat hunting team or the intelligence team, they all work closely together with the incident response. And then there is an offensive cyber security operations as well, that that stay always connected with the entire team. Now we understand how different teams work together in a cyber security or any cyber security domain.
Yeah, Kiran, it's clear.
Yes, yes.
All right. So here now, till now we have discussed about what they do, how they do, and how they operate. Now I'm going to discuss about tools. They tools used by any particular IR analyst. So this was the question that asked by. There was one of the question that Suraj you have posted in. What are the tools that used for the analysis, step by step analysis, right? So here these are the major tools. I would say when I say tools, these are only the internal tools. They are not the tools which are available at the internet. These are something they have purchased with the license in their environment. You understand, right? So first tool is SIM, and they use this particular SIM for log collection, real-time monitoring, data retention, and reporting. So when I say log collection, this is like to collect the logs from each and every device they have in the environment, and then real-time monitoring. You know what is real-time monitoring, right? That is the job of every security operation analyst. And then once real-time monitoring is done, then data retention. Data retention is nothing but to save the data for future use. Now example, if you, as I said, few vendors retain data as per their need. Now example, let's say there will be one company which would retain the data for 90 days, and there will be another company, they say like, no, we need for 3 years. So that particular retention can only be done through SIEM. And then reporting and etc. So when it comes to reporting, we do have this weekly, monthly reports, half quarterly, annually reports, right? And that's where SIEM is used for reporting. I think you all may have gone through how to use the reporting function in the Splunk in your previous sessions.
Yes.
And coming to the well-known vendors are the few sample vendors of SIMS, Splunk, ArcSight, and Curator. Any questions on SIM? I mean, it's, and I know like that. It's just simple as that. And moving on to the AV and EDR, and we already discussed about it. What is an AV and EDR, and what is it used for? So the purpose of the EDR is endpoint detection prevention, host forensics, host investigation, and disk forensics. And what are the different known vendors to do it? CrowdStrike, Microsoft Defender, McAfee, etc. And then IDS or IPS, host based detection. I mean, this is what we discussed again yesterday. And then few examples that we have here is Snort, FortiGate, Checkpoint, and email gateway. Email gateway is most required in every organization. They must have a email protection. Or let me show you one of the snap how exactly email protection works. I mean, not works, how beneficial they are. There'll be one particular report that Proofpoint share every now and then with their customers. Obviously, I can't show you my customer data or my organization data. So let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Mm, 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 mm. Uh, I don't see an image of it here, unfortunately, but I'll tell you how it actually looks. So it is a kind of it'll show you, like, let's say if you have received 10,000 emails in a day, and out of 10,000 they'll definitely, I mean, it will drill down in such a way, or it will filter out the logs in such a way that all the spam, 90% of the spam emails or 90% of the phishing emails will be detected by email gateway, and then only those 10% will be sent out. See this, I mean, understand the level of defense or the protection that gives you against the emails. And as I said, email is one of the most abused vector or most used threat vector by all the attackers. And one of the known vendors of the Proofpoint, known vendors for the email protection is Proofpoint. And WAF and proxy, you know how it is used for. So protection from web-based attacks and drive-by attacks. Example is Imperva and Jetscaler. So these are the tools that are used for their analysis and the protection and the detection as well. So any questions here? Guys, do you have any questions on this particular slide? All right.
Sir, HIDS and NIDS is like IPS IDS or something else, sir?
Your voice is choppy.
Sir, I asked about HIDS and NIDS
Uh-huh.
is just like something else. HIDS.
I'm so sorry. Your voice is so choppy. I can't hear you.
I commented.
Sure. Comment it. I'll take a look at it. All right. Let me check the time. So I think we are close to our break time. Now currently it is 8:54, or let's consider as 8:55, and let's catch up at 9:05. All right.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Meeting is over now. Session is over now, sir.
No, the session is still on. We are on a break. Was that the question? Okay, all right. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you all are back from your break time. Just give me a thumbs up, or
Yes, sir.
Yes, ready.
Okay, all right. So let's quickly get back to the agenda that we have. So we have so far covered cybersecurity definitions, incident response, and incident response life cycle. And we also discussed about how an incident response team works, what are those responsibilities. And now we'll be covering up, we'll be reviewing the ransomware, one of the Royal ransomware, how they operate it, and then we'll also review the few ransomware and phishing incident response plans. All right, please let me know if you have any questions before we get started. I'll quickly bring a few documents on my screen and then I'll start sharing my screen back.
We're good to go.
All right. Let me know if you're all able to see my screen back.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right. So we'll be looking at one of the well-known or the well-used ransomware kind of attack or the category, which is Royal ransomware. Have you heard of this Royal ransomware before?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so before getting into it, I just want to hear all from you what all you know about ransomware.
Sir, it is type of malware uh, who locks the screen and asks for money.
Mm-hmm. Very close.
It
Or
encrypts our all the files and asks for the ransom.
it works on the basis of the encryption keys like symmetric and asymmetrics. The public key and the private key will be shared. Like the attacker uses the two keys for the lockout systems.
It can also steal the data.
Right. Every answer that you have given is very close. So let me give my version on the ransomware. So ransomware, as I said, it's a kind of family of a malware where it has been a very vital, or it has been a it has scared the entire world during 2017 and 18. And I mean, that was the time when we started hearing more about ransomware attacks across the world, and we started not only that, even till today, whenever somebody says, hey, we have a ransomware alert, then entire floor goes crazy. Even the entire from the CISO till the lower SOC analyst will definitely be very curious about it, and then every eyes will have on that particular investigation. So now I mean, how the ransomware happens is, first attacker will usually get into the network through phishing or malvertising. So I mean, before that, I just wanna ask you all, are you all aware about malvertising? What is malvertising? How it works?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, no,
Ma
no.
are you aware of this advertising, right? When I say advertising.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So
Yes.
advertising is nothing but somebody advertising some. I mean, whenever you are accessing any website, you see some banners on your screen, right? Some pop-ups come here and there and say like, "Hey, there's a sale going on." There's a, I mean, there'll be n number of pop-ups, right, based on the advertisements. Haven't you seen any Flipkart advertisement coming on your screen when you are going through some articles or reading some blogs? Flipkarts, and then there'll be few. I mean, entirely they'll be. I mean, from Myntra, there'll be a lot of banners popping up here and there on your screen, right?
Yes.
So they are something called as advertising. Now, malvertising is using that particular advertisement for delivering the malware. Now, example, let's say you start seeing one. Let's say you started suddenly seeing a pop-up like, "Hey, install Adobe," or let's say there is something that says like, "Hey, there is an update for the Instagram." Because usually doesn't Instagram or any sort of application doesn't give the banner for the update, right? That is where it show you when you go to your Play Store or the App Store or the Microsoft Store. Then it'll show like, yeah, there is an update. You just click on update. That is how you do, right? It does not give you a pop-up when you're browsing something on your Safari or your normal browser. It will not give you the pop-up like, hey, there is an updated version of there's an updated version of Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp, whatever the application that you're running. So that is what we call malvertising. Are we clear what is a malvertising?
Yes.
Now you're
Correct, sir.
fine, right? Now you understand what is malvertising. I mean, delivering the malware. I mean, how it works, I'll tell you in a while. But it just theoretically, I just want to give you overview like delivering the malwares by using the advertising banners on the screen on the user's machine. All right. And
Yes, sir,
how
go
they
ahead.
get into the user's machine is they are the tactics called drive-by attacks. When I say drive-by attacks, it's like, have you heard of the watering hole attack?
Yes.
Anybody
The
is aware
infect
of watering hole? Yeah, can just somebody explain it what
the
is the
watering
watering hole
watering
attack
holes
is?
that they infect the whole places.
What was that?
They will infect the whole place, like which we in case of cafe or something, they'll infect the places with some with the
No. You wanna give another try? Would somebody would like to give another try? All right. I'll show you what or actually exactly how a watering hole works. So this is one of the important question that you can expect in your interview. Like, I mean, so far I have seen this has been one of the most asked question in the interview because it is part of one of the drive-by attacks. Now let's say I'll tell you watering hole is nothing but do you know like in the previous when you go to forest or in the forest how it happens is there'll be a water pond, right, where each and every animal comes there and they take the water from there. I mean, they drink the water from there. So what the tigers or the lions do is whenever somebody comes, let's say whenever a deer or any goat or something comes, I mean their prey comes into the particular pond and start drinking the water, they hide somewhere on that particular pond side. Then whenever it start drinking the water, they keep attacking on them. It's like they both attacker and the target has to have some common place, which is nothing but the pond there, and here it is our website. Now what the attacker do, water holing attack is something that attacker performs when I have to infect the entire organization. Now I know like, yeah, you all are in this particular cyber security domain, right? I know you all use this particular virus total or any sort of example, let's say Cisco Talos very often. So when I know that you all access this particular website very often, what I'll do is I'll infect that particular website first. what I'll do is I'll start compromising that particular website, and then I'll start using the exploit, or I'll start using that uploading my particular payload into that particular website, when somebody access that particular website, then I'll send a I mean attacker will send a malicious pop-up on the screen, and once you click on it, then boom, and that's where that payload gets installed on your machine, and from there you don't need to do nothing, sit back and relax, entire system will be encrypted. Was it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yep,
This is how a watering hole attack works, and this is the activity of drive-by attacks. When I say drive-by attacks, it's not something that attacker will come to you. There is something you go to the attacker, or there will be some common place where attacker and you both will be waiting for someone to. I mean, it's like attackers will not infect you directly. They want you to come and fall in the trap. But if you consider phishing is something they want you to, you are the major, they'll send you, they'll come in interaction with your email ID. But when you see this water rolling, you are yourself going to that particular website, because that you feel like, yeah, that's one of the legitimate site which I access every day. Now you understand?
Yes, sir.
yes.
All right, now let's get into this ransomware. So when there is a malvertising entertainment, they install the payload, and then from there, it start deleting all the Windows delete or the backups, and then it start encrypting, and then it will start showing that particular banner, right? Hey, you have been spawned, or you have been phished, so you had to pay so and so ransomware to get access to your machine back. This is how ransomware works. So without any further delay, get into this particular side. Ransomware attacks has been rising in recent years. We all know that. The frequency of attacking rising from 2021 to several high profile. So colonial pipeline activity. How many are aware of this colonial pipeline activity?
Yes, sir.
So it was one of the major security breach that has happened back in 2021. Even President Biden has to give his own press note regarding this particular ransomware. It was a colonial pipeline which was the petroleum supplier for the entire United States. So what attacker did is they got the control over one of the controller of that particular machine, and they have shut down entire East Coast, if I'm not wrong, East Coast pipeline for the entire US, and that has created a lot of trouble for the people. And Colonial, there were some rumors like Colonial paid $400 million, but and FBI was able to recover few amount out of them. But still, those numbers are not that real, but there are some rumors on it. So the attack resulted in a temporary shutdown of a pipeline, which I just told, which caused a fuel shortage and the panic during these particular areas. This incident could have led to crisis in the country. Definitely, right? Petroleum is the most used or the most important resources for any country. In addition to the targeting large companies, ransomware attacks are frequently directed at a small business. So now you understand ransomware has developed a lot. Earlier, ransomware used to be by the cyber criminals, and now they started using it. They started doing it as a ransomware as a service. When I say ransomware as a service, now let's say you all start working for any security operations center. Every security operations center was driven by a service. Now example, let's say if you see HCL, Accenture, Deloitte, they drive the services as a service, well planned service, like hey, there'll be a SOC team L1, L2 and L3, and this is how we handle. Like the same way, they started building on their ransomware as a service. So they offer the services to the particular government or particular hacker. So they do all the things for you. You just have to pay the money. That's it. Now, here are the list of top 10 ransomware attacks that has seen in back in 2020. Now you can see how why I have chosen Royal Ransomware as an example, because ultimately it's on the top. And have you heard of? You definitely would have heard of the Logbit. Logbit was very very familiar word that has been in the market from last 2 years. Logbit 1, Logbit 2.0, and then now 3.0. And Play Ransomware, Voice City, and the Blackbasta. These all are your the well-known ransomware families or the types. Now let's discuss more about what is this Royal Ransomware Group is. So basically, this Royal Ransomware Group is categorized as Dev 0569. So this particular threat actor, whenever you see, like you see, usually threat actor group will be named as ATP or AT, something like that. But when you see like DEV in between, in the starting, then this is the naming convention given by Microsoft to them. Now here you see that takes you to the this particular page of Microsoft. Now let's find more details about it, how this particular attacker works. Recent activity from the threat actor group is known to see this particular threat actor is very known to distribute the various payloads or the deployment of the ransomware. You understand what you mean by deliver or distribute? They deliver the ransomware payload as a service and they take from the ransomware group. Hey, I take the responsibility. They're like courier service. They're delivering all these services. They deliver the payload to the victim machine and then they offer it. So if you see, they may use the I'll directly, any further delay, directly get into the technical details. So here is how Dev 0569 attack chain delivery tactic was teach. So now they don't, again, this is one of the very interesting or sophisticated threat actor group. You can't even find their presence. I have handled this particular incident very long back. They are very, very sophisticated. When I say sophisticated, they're very talented. You can't even detect them. They are very talented and they are very hard to detect as well. So when you see now, as per the historical representation, they say like, yeah, they say they begin sending malicious link delivered via malicious ads, which is nothing but malvertising. Sending a malicious ads is nothing but malvertising or fake forum forms, blog comments, and then through phishing emails. So these are the threat vectors for this particular threat actor group to deliver these payloads. These links lead to a malicious payload signed by an attacker using the legitimate certificate. So this is that this particular link will download one particular website which was already signed by a legitimate certificate. Like example, let's say you click on that particular website, it installed Teams. It'll look like a Teams, but it's not Microsoft Teams. But when you check in the virus total, when you check everywhere, it says like, yeah, it's a legitimate Teams, but it is not, because that got a fake sign certificate from Microsoft, but that wasn't the real or actual Teams. The malicious files which are malware downloaded, the files which are downloaded is known as bat loader. You remember this one? This is a bat loader. Pose as an installer. See here. Pose as an installer or updates from a legitimate applications like Microsoft Teams or Zoom. So they look like, yeah, you are installing a Zoom or Microsoft update or application, but when you see, that was a bat loader that uses MSI custom actions to launch malicious PowerShell activity. Once they launch the PowerShell activity, they run the scripts for disabling the security solutions. When I say security solution, they disable the antivirus on that particular machine and then lead the delivery of various encrypted malware payload, which will definitely lead to a further ransomware activity. Here till delivery of this particular PowerShell and disabling AV, it's a responsibility of this particular threat actor group. Now we understand how this threat actor group works.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yep.
Now here is the sample of it, how the Teams pop-up looks like. See, by just looking at, do you think it can be a fake website?
No.
This is,
No, sir. No, sir.
see,
No.
just look like how greatly they have been evolved. Attackers have been evolved. Earlier it used to be one random colors, there used to be some spelling mistake, there used to be some format errors. Now if you see this was a very perfectly crafted website or a website, right? Okay, now here is the complete story of the Royal Ransomware. Now I'll tell you one by one in each stages. So now here is the initial stage. what they do is either they'll send a link for the through phishing email, or they'll just malvertise you with the SEO. When you say SEO, search engine poisoning. When you say search engine, it's nothing but the Chrome or the Safari or Mozilla, whatever the tool that you use for searching is called search engine poisoning. So they poison your search engine by uploading some fake Google documents or some fake Microsoft documents, and then when you click on that particular link, they'll show you a similar page like this, like, hey, you have a update from the TeamViewer, you would like to install it. So let's say if you already have a TeamViewer on it, you feel like, let me install it, I have a TeamViewer on it, then you go and install it, but that particular page or the pop-up is not from the actual TeamViewer. So then it will download the site, and then once it goes to that particular redirect to particular website, that download a .msi file, which is known as a bat loader. So this is stage 2 here. So going to the particular websites or redirecting via phishing or malvertising is called stage 1, and this is stage 2. And then once the MSI is installed, then it will run some PowerShell script to disable AV. Like example, let's say if it has a defender on it, then it will run few commands like kill that particular defender process, or kill antivirus, or it will also see some commands like disable real-time monitoring for defender. So what actually they are doing is they are evading the defense. That is what the tactic called it, defense evasion. So this is something initial access, then this is malicious payload delivery, and here is defense evasion, which is known as third stage or the stage 3. Once antivirus is disabled, then this particular malicious payload will start making the connections with the secondary download site, and this is the site where the loads. From here, this is where the ransomware activity starts. They'll install any batch script for the privilege escalation, there any signed NIR command utility, and then any of this particular malware, or let's say, for example, for time being, let's say the secondary payload download a Cobalt Strike beacon on your machine. Once they got the Cobalt Strike, then the next thing is they start encrypting your machine, and then they start they exploit your machine using the Royal ransomware. Now you got some picture how actually ransomware works, or the Royal ransomware to be very precise.
Yes.
Got it. So now let's look at one of the document how we actually prepare. You remember when I said preparation, we had to be ready with our IR report. Sorry, not IR report, it's a IRP, incident response plan. So this is one of the ransomware incident response plan that I have taken from NCSC, National Cyber Security Centrum, and then here, as I said, these are the different stages that they'll cover in this particular ransomware incident response plan. Now we'll start with the preparation. Now we are at the preparation stage. So here, the first, as we said, we should have a continuity management. We should have, let's say, let me zoom it a little bit if I can do it. Yeah. So as a continuity management, we should have where appropriate, there will be need to be an integrated approach of coordinate with the framework partners, and if this this is like maintain a proper SLA, and then make sure you have a continuity management, like you are handling them very perfectly, and then ensure there is a 24/7 standby, because we don't know when the attacker can happen, right? When the attack can happen in any second of a day. So we must need a 24/7 standby of managers or on-call duty for the critical facilities. And then we should have images available to be provided for the critical systems. And they should, this is the kind of preparation steps for the continuity management, how we have to maintain our continuity. And then next, backup. So determine what is the form of backup and where we had to do it. And then we had to ensure that there is a periodical backup for that particular server, and ensure all the machines on the virtual machines have a periodical backup. check the backup results periodically for the process. Do you have any errors for it? And then this is something related to backup, and make sure you keep your backup is happening without any failures, because backup is everything. Once you have the backup, you don't need to pay any money for this hacker or the attacker and say like, hey, I have the backup and I just reimage the machine and then go on. And then design principles. So this is something like design principle is nothing but define your security systems. I mean, define how greatly, example, let's say if you're using VPN, make sure it has been used very appropriately, and make sure none of the very vulnerable ports are open to the internet. It's like securing your entire architecture or entire organization to increase the organization security posture. And then here, inventory and configuration. When we say inventory, we should definitely have a list of all the critical systems and determine what was the impact that gonna create whenever there is a ransomware attack, and provide an update and complete the overview of system and independence. So if when I say this, as an analyst, we should definitely having that particular inventory of all those critical systems, all those infrastructure, and then we must have a complete infrastructure design planning towards like, hey, how this particular machine or the critical server is connected to the network. So by having all those architectural records, all those maps will help you to speed up your investigation, or will definitely be the help will greatly help you during your investigation. And then the other principle is monitoring and detection. So this is very important. Then I'll try to discuss it point by point, because this is the major requirement for us as a security operations center. So now monitoring, when it comes to monitoring and detection of a ransomware, ensure the security of an email environment, including scanning for the attachments and internet links. So it is asking that make sure you have an email production, or let's say you scan each and every email that's happening, or especially look for the email that has the attachment or the internet links. When they say internet links, they are the links for the internet, they are not the links for the intranet. And then provide logging, if logging in the networking off. So they are asking like provide, I mean, to collect, secure and centralize all the loggings of a networking, and executed PowerShell script and attempted execution. I mean, here basically saying look for all the executed PowerShell scripts that happening. And you see event ID for authentication, you should have the logs with the event ID for authentication, which we just spoke, and then event ID for creating a new process or the persistent process, and outgoing data streams. Outgoing data streams is nothing but it's a kind of data exfiltration. It's like somebody sending a huge chunk of data to the internet. Let's say suddenly I see Nithin or Pune or Amit. Suddenly they used to only use 3 GB of data to upload in the internet, and suddenly from their machine you see like 300 GB of data being exfiltrated. Then that is something we call it like outgoing streams. Then event ID for correlation, the modifications of accounts. I mean, these are the use cases. If you see it clearly, we should have a event or the use case for creation or the modification of an account. This is one of the activity that we just discussed in the brute force, right? And use canary files, and then monitor the use of sensitive management accounts and such as admin. Here this is a very critical point. We should always have an eye on our admin accounts, what actually they are doing, like they're deleting any bulk, they're creating any bulk process at the same time. This is something very mandatory that we have to keep focusing on. So what they're saying is, when it comes to the monitoring and detection, we must have a use cases for all of this to detect an efficient ransomware or active ransomware activity happening in the network. Am I clear on this? Does anybody have any questions on the monitoring and detection? Yes, no? Can I consider that as yes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Alright, now procedure and process. So when it comes to the process and process, the first thing is communication. Take an account of breakdown of a regular communication channels. Example, See, this is one of the important feature that we discussed in the yesterday's slide or while we going through that particular document. Take account of a breakdown of regular communication. So you should have a telephone number, email address, and address book of each and every team that gonna involve in the cyber security breach or the ransomware incident. So prepare and test before. I mean, we had. I mean, there will be something called cyber security drills. You know these mock drills, right? That happens in Navy mostly. So what they do, they interpret the attack. They see like, okay, let's create an attack on ourselves and then see how team works. So suddenly what they say is, yeah, there is some cyber drill for ransomware. Then they start, they'll ask you to do perform what are the investigation that you do and try to identify it, and then they'll see each how team reacts. I mean, how each and every team reacts on it, and what is the time that each and every team does take it, because that helps you to it's a kind of simulation, attack simulation they do during it. It's a part of red team activity or the purple team activity, like pen testers do. So once it is done, they'll decide where actually the flow is, or is there any improvement that we have to bring in each and every team. This is how they define it. So make remember the word of cyber drill, like it is similar as fire drill. So define an internal and external communication strategy. Again, discuss with whom you. I mean, this is like maintaining all your communications. Like who has to send the notification first? Who all should be involved in this? Because whenever there is a ransomware activity, you can't deal it as a normal security incident. There should be you should must respond to the security stakeholders, and then you have to involve each and every team. And I mean, the way how you handle will definitely change it, and you have to be well prepared with all those communication. And who's gonna, I mean, this is especially for SOC. They should have all those data ready, like if something happens, then these are the people that I have to contact with. All right, now moving on to the incident response. Here, prepare an incident response plan. This is nothing but which we are currently looking at. You who should be involved in the cyber security. I mean, this is incident response plan is something that we are actually doing, and all these activities are part of the incident response plan. And here, know who are in the initial key players and the external stakeholders. When we say stakeholders, they could be the clients, or you could be your cybersecurity leaders, or it could be a CISO, or there are sometimes where I have seen even CEO involving in the cybersecurity breach. Make the mandate of those involved explicit, and then especially which officer has the power to switch off the services. Here, as I said, well, let's say if there is any this is something related to containment. So containment is something not everybody can do it, right? There should be appropriate team or the owner who has to give the permission, hey, go and turn it off. So we should have a mandatory list of who can provide you those approvals, and describe a role and then structured work process of the incident response team. I mean, this is the structure which we just discussed. Define each and every person and their roles, and then make sure your team is ready for the cyber security attack at any moment. And then you must know what is a crisis management. I mean, this is basically all the responsibilities of an incident response team. Like these all comes under the part of response, sorry, preparation. Anybody have any questions on this? Hello?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. So here accounts, and this is something where you can take a look. And there is one more details. I mean, I love covering it with you. So these are the technical measures. You have to ensure like you have EDR up to date on all the clients and servers. You have the network monitoring team. I mean, you should have a network traffic or the segmentation happening, and you should implement the multi-factor authentication. Hope you all are aware of the multi-factor authentication.
Yes, sir.
And then maintain and check the antivirus, spyware, and then you had to, I mean, this is basically, see, turn off the web links and then opening images, and then turn off the these are the some security measures or the basic security measures that you have to maintain technically to prevent the cyber security, I mean, ransomware attack. And then the other most thing is employees awareness. So employees includes temporary staff, advisors, and the second staff. It is like everybody who's ever access have the access for the organization. Ensure there is a knowledge and awareness among the employees about they should be knowing about phishing variants and how to recognize them, and they should identifying in social engineering and the spread of malware or the ransomware across the globe. So they should be aware of it so that they don't easily click, let me click on it, nothing gonna happen. And they must know recognizing the ransomware infection. So they had to, I mean, they are the end users, right, at the point of time, and they must know what is a ransomware and how it actually looks like. And then they must know how to respond to it on the timely to the incident response team. And then not only that, how to report a suspicious observation. Like example, sometimes you see user reporting, hey, I see like my mouse is being operated though I don't touch the mouse or the mouse pad, and using a different password for the different systems. This is the most common issue for each and every analyst, that user tend to use single password for all particular website that he has access to. So that was one of the biggest problem, because if one credentials got compromised, then there's a huge possibility that the entire access or the entire list of website that he has access to would probably get compromised. Make a lot of key officials and make them aware of the possible risk, and provide a policy plan for education, training, and exercise among the others and thereby expect. So whenever you join any organization, they first ask you to complete the cyber security course, and that is nothing but as per the policy. So now you see like how the timely growth of a cyber security has been prioritized, or how important that is right now at this particular point of time. All right. Moving on to the identification or the detection. This is part of detection or analysis. Okay, so here I'll just quickly discuss about it. If it is, I mean, this just discuss about how the ransomware and the thing is, and the following may indicate an indicator of an attack of a ransomware. So these are the use cases that we had to keep, or let's say that each and every analyst should be aware, like happening of any of this activity potentially indicates a ransomware kind of activity. So first thing is unusual invoice or the other business emails that coming to us. As I said, it could be through phishing or malvertising. So any invoices that you see, then invoices from an unauthorized sender, suddenly you started seeing invoices from some external site which has been just created 4 days back or 5 days back, then definitely that is something that you have to focus more. And then the ransomware messages on the file system, ransomware messages on the screen, ransomware messages on the via email, employees report. I mean, you should start looking at all of this, and any unusual data delivered over the internet. You have to look for RDP logs, you have to look for Windows security SMB logs, you have to check for any unusual activity on this malware found, like example, unusual binaries, forensics of images, unusual process. You see suddenly some unusual task being scheduled, you see unusual pattern of email attachments, and then you see unusual pattern of network activity. Like example, you suddenly started seeing a machine making connections to Tor browser or any cryptocurrency parent sites, then probably that is one of the indication of a ransomware. And when we say this detection, these are the initial phases, right? So malicious communications of a network, and you can see like known patterns. So I'll share this document with you. You can go through each and every step one by one, understand and make yourself very clear, like how do you set up your detection for the ransomware. Does it make sense?
Yes, you can share those documents.
Sure. So now moving on to the containment. As I said, containment is nothing but stopping the attacker. To contain the incident, you must have like immediately disconnect the system from the network. This is nothing but, as I said, isolation. Isolation is something that we do, that we have been identified or suspected being of compromise with ransomware. So it's nothing but I mean, you are clear, right? When I say isolation, I have explained you yesterday. It's like isolate the system immediately, and then do not turn the system off. Because why people say like do not turn this, because whenever users see something, the first thing they're going to do is they try to restart the machine. If you try to restart the machine, when the because all this malware will be stored in the temporary RAM. I mean, all the activities they do, everything, so in the temp folder. So when you restart, will be not having any kind of evidence to look at those logs, and that will be very difficult for the investigation team to perform the investigation. And in the event of major attack, consider disconnecting the network infrastructure such as Wi-Fi, or this is something related to the network isolation of the particular host. Immediately disconnect the external device. Like example, let's say that machine got infected with ransomware and you have your personal USB connected. First, take it off, because or else they might take the data and then start blackmailing you for the ransom. And disconnect the network file storage. Let's say when I say network file storage, they are the file mounts on our machine. So if you have anything, try make sure you delete all of them, and then block and deactivate all the accounts. So whatever the accounts that you see on that particular machine, just block them or deactivate them for time being. And then you had to start resetting the password for all those authentications, and then all Kerberos service accounts, and then remove the write permissions on the file system for any process, and then check the MFA is still set for all the accounts or not, and block the traffic with potential identifiers based on our investigation. I mean, these all, whatever that we discussed previously, they all part of the containment activity of a ransomware. Now, coming to the eradication. So when it comes to eradication, to eradicate the breach or the impact of the system of the following: delete the malicious binaries, and if applicable, consider deleting the registry values or the compromised user profile. I mean, this is what I explained in the brute force, right? If you have any suspension, eradication is like deleting the tracks of what they have actually did. In the brute force, you see like they created the so-and-so users, they did the privilege escalation, they added the people to the unknown user groups. Then deleting all those registry modifications of the system is one of the must thing for the eradication. See, here it says reinstall the affected system with a clean image after any locally stored data. So we have to re-image the machine, and then record meta such as signatures and origin of the form. So it is like finding the root cause of it, and then see, I mean, it's like taking the IOCs and then recording them somewhere for the further analysis or the further detection process, and then update antivirus signature on this particular identified malware. So now you have seen a ransomware payload that has been delivered, but unfortunately your AV haven't detected it. So during your investigation, you'll come across that sample, right? You take that particular hash value and then submit it to the antivirus so that signature gets updated. So if the attacker again try to compromise your machine or any of the machine in your network, will definitely be captured by the antivirus. Antivirus system where the first breach occurred, and then remedy. I mean, it's like finding the root cause and completely throwing away the attacker outside of the organization. And then when it comes to the recovery, as I said, again bringing back all those services and ensuring that user use the machine or users use that particular server without any fear of that machine got impacted. So it's like recovery is like bringing the machine back again clean with by removing all the infections. Got it? And then again, lesson learned, it depends on each and every investigation that you do. So I don't want to speak much about it. Just like how do I mean, we already discussed it. Lesson learned will have many things. First thing is, was there any improvement required for the documentation? Where was the flow? Do we need any extra security systems? Do we have to tighten up any policies in the security system? You need to bring up some more user awareness. Was it a user mistake? What did actually made this particular thing to happen? Doing all this is called lesson learned. So this is all about how a response plan looks like, and this is the response plan that IR team create for each and every activity or each and every attack. Is this clear? Do you have any questions? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions? We still have 11 more minutes. Let me quickly try to show you one other report or one other IR incident response plan for the phishing as well. For this, I'll not go much in detail with it. I'll just show you what are the important things that we have to handle for phishing.
Kiran,
Mm-hmm.
Sandeep here. So, there's any like documentations for the email analysis and IP analysis?
Um, I I can't say for IP and email analysis, but
The
I
phishing
have.
one.
Okay, you see it here. The workflow will help you out. Let me quickly take you through this particular workflow. So everything starts with the initial phishing email with the subject or the email addresses, right? So let's say you have you have got, I mean, before that, does everybody here on the call are aware of what actually the phishing activity is? How phishing works?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let's say you are an IR analyst or you are working as a SOC analyst, and suddenly one of the user reported that, hey, when he is reported, hey, there was a phishing email, or let's say you got an alert from the proof point or the email gateway solutions like, hey, there is a phish activity happening on this particular sender. Then the first thing that you have to do is you start with initial phishing email. I mean, take a look at all the email and then do the header analysis and try to get who is the sender, where is it coming from, who is the recipient, and then try to get all the basic details of that particular email. I mean, what are the links that it has? Does it has any attachment? If it's what, I mean, all the initial things that we have to do. And again, here we are discussing about response plan, and then get the list of users or identify who all got the email. It's like it is a part of scoping where we say who all have got this. I mean, who, and identifying the impacted users or the users with that risk. And then we have to look for who else got the email or who actually read the same email. And once you get it, is there any delegated access to the mailbox? If you see it, yes. To which delegated I mean, usually what phishing works is, once they send it, once they have the access, they create a email rules on the mailbox. I'll tell you how one of my experience with the emitted, how it happened. So one of the user got compromised. I think it was back in 20, not 2020, it was back in 2019. When I was working with one of the organization, I saw one of the particular user or the detection mechanism reported as an emotet malware infection. Then I started handling the incident. Then when I saw like, yeah, that was the user who actually um, got compromised. So when we started seeing all these emails, we suddenly saw like the sender of this email address is the same person of that particular organization. Then that felt very strange to us, like that given us flag that, oh, maybe this was the account that has been compromised. So we immediately went and disabled that particular account and then started investigation. Then I see there was a rule that has been created in that user mailbox, like delete all the emails that are sent from this ID, and also delete if somebody respond back saying that, hey, is this you who has sent to me, or why did I receive this? I mean, you remember, right? Somebody is sending you email. What do you respond like? Hey, what is it? Why are you sending to me? Is it real? I mean, they used all those words, and if email response has those words, then that emails directly go to the delete folder, which means that I'm a user using my mailbox. At the same time, threat actor also using the mailbox. But as a user, I don't know what actually threat actor is doing. What are the activity that he is doing? He is like sending all the emails to everybody and then deleting all those emails. At the same time, whosoever respond back saying that, hey, what is this? I mean, is it why I have received it? Those emails are also being deleted. So it means that user will never have a idea that he got compromised. You're getting my point?
Yes, yes, we're getting.
Got it. So that was one of the emitted behavior that I have seen. So now that is what I'm saying here. Is there any delegated mailbox for the access? When we say delegated, we delegate the mailbox like it's like sub email IVD. What are the emails coming to this mail? We'll forward them to other thing. And that's the same thing. We have it here. Is there any a forwarding rule on this mailbox? So what they do is they will create a rule. Whatever the email they have got, they'll forward those emails to their attacker personal email ID. That way they'll collect the list of all, actually, I mean, that's a story for that will help them for lateral movement. And then once it is done, you see like, yeah, there was an email box created, we see a forwarding rule. Then you have to check which was the email ID that has been delegated forwarded to. Did the user read the email? If they say no, then stop and remove the user identity from the potential list. So if user haven't read the email, then it's not a malicious thing for us. Just quarantine the email and then remove them from the list. You don't need any further investigation. Did the email have the attachments? If yes, then where is the payload in the attachment? I mean, take the hash value and record it the hash and then make sure you update your systems accordingly. And let's say if there's no attachment, then check the email header from the true source. I mean, check the email header and then record the IP from where it is coming at, and check if this particular IP has been part of any previous attacks or the phishing campaigns. Here, did the user click the email in the link? I mean, here this speaks about an attachment. Here this speaks about the link. If yes, then excuse me, did the user click the link, then record the destination IP or the destination URL, and then check if that particular URL is related to any of the phishing campaign. If no, on what endpoints was that email opened? I mean, check on which endpoints that email has been opened, and then get all the endpoint device ID, and then try looking for your endpoint devices alerts. I mean, alerts from that particular endpoint. Does it have any alerts from that particular machine or not? If the attachment was executed, if yes, what is the process creation event? And then get the device investigation package. This is investigation package is something, but I mean, how do you do the host analysis? I mean, perform the host analysis if the file was executed. Was the destination IP or URL touched or opened? If yes, is there any code that was loaded or downloaded? If yes, then again do the host investigation. And then initiate a sign in activity for the for the identity. And here, when they open it, mostly the phishing activity would be the credential harvesting activity. Now investigate if there is any sign-on activity from that particular user who has clicked it. If yes, then record the timestamps of the device, source IP address, and then investigate the source IP from where the sign-in activity is happening, and then check which was the device that user is trying to log on or authenticate to, and then perform the host investigation. Once it is one everything is done, then this is where once it is done, then we'll start taking the action accordingly, like blocking them, resetting the password for each and every user. That's how we do it. Got it?
Yes, yes.
So this is how, I mean, this is very complicated. I would say like this is very complex. So there was one phishing incident response plan that I have created for one of my previous organizations. So there I have segregated both, like two, part one and part two. How you gonna investigate if there's an attachment, and how do you investigate if there is a URL in it? But it has the common, I mean, this is something pretty similar to this, but it has a different flows. But here I see it like both are very connected. All right, so this is how again the phishing investigation, what is the response plan looks like. With this, we come to an end of our incident response training. I think, okay, please let me know if you have any questions on the any topic that we have discussed. We have 2 more minutes of our scheduled time. Yeah,
Kiran, I have one doubt and one request.
yes.
So if we are doing email analysis, so any of like any of one record is not matching, like DMARC, DKIM, or SPF, then how will we verify that it is legitimate or not?
That is again depends on, I mean, that's where the header analysis comes into the picture. So you have to start looking at from where the email has come from and what was the content of the email, and then whether this particular let's say I'll tell you this way. You started doing with this sender investigation. Does this sender has in as I mean, where it is coming from? Do you have any business with the sender? Which country it is coming from? And then you have to look at the email body and then is there any indications of the phishing? Like example, when I say phishing, there'll be some urgency parameters, some demanding parameters, like hey, do it right now or else you're gonna lose your account, something like that. And if you have any link, take the link and then try to put it in the virus total and start investigating how what bad it could do us. Based on all this, you can clearly say like, hey, based on this evidence, this is phishing. Clear? Did that
Yes.
answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, next.
Kiran, actually, you just told us if you any interviewer ask about any present incident and any severity, you told us we don't tell about our research. It's what we answer about.
Come again?
Actually, when an interviewer ask about us any incident, then you
Right.
told us told us about any ransomware attack happened in our company. So if they ask about this question, so what we answer?
Actually, thing is here in that case, you have to be, as it is an interview, you should not disclose about any of your company details. You should not disclose what was the host, what was the indicators in it. Mostly you can speak about the same way that I did. So you can say like, yeah, this was one of the ransomware activity that we have seen, and you should only speak about that particular activity. You should not speak about something that has already seen on your environment.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think we
Sir,
have.
Kiran, one question.
Yeah.
I once interview asked about when I told us I'm working with as like a log monitoring, and then asked about in which ArcSight tool you working with, like connector or ESM or maybe logger.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a particular console we can work for connector or maybe logger. It's a logger logger ESM we have, but it's connector we have a particular ESM. Yes, console.
No, there was nothing. There was nothing. I mean, connector console, we can do it from the ArcSight itself. When you go to that connector and then double click on any connector, you will see on your editor panel, there'll be all the settings option that you get to see, right? They are the same option that you get while installing the connector or while you do it from the any of the connector installed agent. So they're both. I mean,
So,
I can say like even the connector parameters can be changed from the console as well, ArcSight console.
we can't do anything in a connector after installing and all.
We can do it. There's nothing like that.
Thank you.
Sir, HIDS and NIDS is like a IPS IDS or something else?
They're
HIDS and
similar.
NIDS.
They're similar. They just add the host in between. That's it.
Just same like it works the same like IPS and IDS, sir.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Anybody has any further questions? If not, I think we are good for the day. Please let me know if in the group if you have any comments on my session or any feedback on my session. I'll definitely try to improve myself.